Pack your things, Marcus said with a smirk, leaning against my office doorframe. You're done here. His designer suit and perfectly styled hair exuded the same arrogance that had made the last 3 months a living hell. I maintained my composure, though my hands trembled slightly as I opened my desk drawer. Inside, beneath a stack of papers, lay a sealed envelope I'd been waiting to use at exactly the right moment. Of course, I replied calmly. I assume this has nothing to do with me just finishing Sarah's training? Marcus's smirk widened. Budget cuts, Rachel, nothing personal, though between us, we need someone more aligned with our modern vision. I'm Rachel Chen, 45 years old, and until this moment, I was the senior property manager at Stellar Commercial Real Estate, one of Boston's fastest-growing property management firms. For 12 years, I'd handled our most prestigious accounts, built lasting relationships with tenants, and maintained an impressive 98% occupancy rate across my portfolio. More importantly, I'd spent those years quietly investing every spare dollar into something Marcus had apparently never bothered to investigate. I understand, I said, gathering my personal items into a cardboard box. Will you be taking over my accounts, or is that what you trained Sarah for? Sarah will manage the transition, he replied, checking his Rolex. HR has your final paperwork ready. Security will escort you out in 20 minutes. Security escort, the final indignity. I'd seen it happen to others over the past year, ever since Marcus took over as regional director. Young, ambitious, and utterly ruthless, he'd been systematically replacing experienced staff with fresh graduates who would work for half the salary. Each time, he used the same excuse: budget cuts. I placed my family photos in the box, carefully wrapping the frame holding a picture of my late father. He'd taught me everything I knew about property management, starting from when I was just a teenager helping him collect rent at the small apartment building he managed. Always know your true worth, Rachel, he'd say, and make sure you own more than you owe. Sarah appeared in the doorway, her expression a mixture of triumph and feigned sympathy. At 26, she was everything Marcus wanted in an employee: technically proficient, social media savvy, and most importantly, willing to work 60-hour weeks for entry-level pay. For the past 3 months, I'd trained her on every aspect of my job, knowing exactly what was coming. Rachel, she said softly, I'm so sorry about this. I had no idea. It's fine, Sarah, I interrupted, keeping my voice neutral. You'll do great. Just remember what I taught you about the Henderson account. They can be particular about their maintenance requests. Marcus checked his watch again. 10 minutes, Rachel. Oh, and we'll need your building access card. Can't have former employees wandering around. You understand? I nodded, removing my access card from my wallet. As I did, my fingers brushed against another card, this one embossed with the name Phoenix Property Holdings LLC. I'd established the company 5 years ago, following my father's advice about diversification. Marcus had no idea that his budget cuts were about to become very expensive indeed. One last thing, I said, reaching for the envelope in my drawer. You might want to give this to accounting. It came in last week, but with everything happening, I haven't had a chance to process it. Marcus took the envelope with obvious irritation. This couldn't wait until Sarah started? It's rather important, I replied, gathering my box. The building's ownership changed hands recently. The new landlord is particular about timing. Marcus tossed the envelope on Sarah's desk without opening it. Fine, Sarah, handle it first thing tomorrow. Rachel, security is waiting. As the young security guard, Tommy, who I'd hired myself 2 years ago, awkwardly escorted me to the lobby, I couldn't help but smile slightly. The envelope contained a formal notice of ownership transfer for 100 State Street, this very building. Phoenix Property Holdings LLC, my holding company, had quietly purchased it 3 months ago when the previous owners decided to retire. Marcus had been so focused on cutting costs that he'd missed the memo about the building's sale. More importantly, he'd missed checking who exactly owned the company that now held their lease. In 3 days, when the new rent notice arrived, he'd discover that his budget cuts had just become significantly more complicated. Tommy held the door for me, whispering, "This isn't right, Ms. Chen, you've been here forever. Everything happens for a reason." "Tommy," I replied, patting his arm, "keep an eye on the place for me, will you?" The drive home felt surreal. 12 years ended with a cardboard box and a security escort. I thought about all the late nights, the missed family events, the dedication I'd shown to a company that had just discarded me without a second thought. But unlike the others Marcus had pushed out, I had an ace up my sleeve. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. A new email from my attorney, Linda Martinez. Awaited. All set for Monday. New lease terms drafted as discussed. Are you sure about this? I smiled, typing my response, absolutely. Time to remind them that real estate isn't just about cutting costs. The next 3 days passed slowly. I spent them organizing my home office, updating my LinkedIn profile, and fielding concerned calls from clients who'd somehow heard about my departure. I assured each one that I was fine, knowing that very soon, they'd understand exactly how fine I was. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. I sat at my kitchen counter, sipping coffee and waiting for the inevitable phone call. At precisely 9:17 a.m., my cell phone rang, Marcus's number. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. And again. On the fourth call, I answered, keeping my voice professional. Rachel Chen speaking. Rachel, Marcus said, his usual smugness replaced by barely controlled panic. There must be some mistake. We just received a notice about our lease. No mistake, I replied calmly. Phoenix Property Holdings LLC purchased the building 3 months ago. As the new owner, we're exercising our right to adjust the terms of your lease at renewal. New owner, but that's... I heard papers shuffling. Rachel, the notice says our rent is doubling. This has to be a joke. Not a joke. Marcus, just business. The market rate for Class A office space in downtown Boston has increased significantly. As someone focused on modern business practices, I'm sure you understand the importance of maximizing returns. There was a long pause. When Marcus spoke again, his voice had a different tone, one I'd never heard from him before. Rachel, let's discuss this. Perhaps we were hasty with certain recent decisions. I'm sure Sarah can handle it, I replied. After all, she's been thoroughly trained on managing tenant relationships, though she might want to brush up on the section about lease negotiations. We covered it rather quickly. Rachel, be reasonable. This increase would devastate our budget. We can't possibly dash. Budget cuts are difficult, aren't they? I interrupted. Nothing personal, of course, just business. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have another call coming in. I ended the call and took another sip of coffee, enjoying the morning sunlight streaming through my kitchen window. Right on schedule. My phone lit up with a text from Tommy. Ms. Chen, you should see their faces up here. Mr. Davidson from corporate just arrived. Everyone's panicking. I smiled, remembering David Davidson, the CEO, and his tendency to appear personally when things went wrong. I'd met him several times over the years, though I doubted he remembered the quiet property manager who'd helped coordinate his office renovation 2 years ago. At 10:45 a.m., my phone rang again, this time. A number I didn't recognize. The area code was from New York, where corporate was headquartered. Rachel Chen, I answered. Ms. Chen, this is Patricia Walsh, General Counsel for Stellar Commercial Real Estate. Do you have a moment to discuss the situation at 100 State Street? Of course, Ms. Walsh, though I should mention that any discussions about the lease terms should include my attorney. Let me connect you with Linda Martinez's office. Ms. Chen, Patricia's voice took on a more personal tone. Before we involve the attorneys, I was hoping we could speak candidly. Mr. Davidson is quite concerned about this situation. I imagine he is, I replied. 100% rent increase would significantly impact the company's Boston operations. Of course, there are other options we could discuss. Other options? Phoenix Property Holdings would consider a more modest increase, say, 20% under certain conditions. Primary among them would be a review of recent personnel changes in the Boston office. The silence on the other end was telling. Finally, Patricia spoke again, her voice measured. I see. And these personnel changes, they would need to be reversed? That would be a start, I said, along with some adjustments to ensure similar situations don't arise in the future. I'm sure Mr. Davidson would be interested in hearing about Marcus Thompson's management style. The high turnover rate in Boston can't have escaped corporate's notice. It hasn't, Patricia admitted, though I'm curious. Ms. Chen, why didn't you come to us directly when you acquired the building? I thought about all the complaints that had been filed about Marcus, all the experienced employees who had been pushed out, all the warnings that had gone unheeded. Sometimes, I replied, the best way to make people listen is to speak their language. In this case, that language is money. Point taken, Patricia said. Mr. Davidson would like to meet with you tomorrow, if possible, in person. I'm available at 10 a.m., I said. I know a lovely coffee shop across from 100 State Street. The owner's been a tenant of mine for years. After hanging up, I sent a quick email to Linda, updating her on the situation. Her response came within minutes. Brilliant play, want me there tomorrow? Not yet, I replied, let's see what they offer first. The next morning, I arrived at Cafe Luna 10 minutes early, dressed in my best suit. Through the window, I could see David Davidson already waiting. Along with Patricia Walsh, Marcus was notably absent. As I walked in, David stood, extending his hand. Ms. Chen, thank you for meeting with us. I believe we have some things to discuss. Indeed we do, Mr. Davidson, I replied, taking a seat. Shall we start with the real estate market in Boston, or would you prefer to discuss management practices in your regional offices? David's expression was hard to read, but there was something like respect in his eyes. Actually, I'd like to start by offering you your job back, with a significant promotion, Regional Director of Operations for New England. I raised an eyebrow. And Marcus? Mr. Thompson has been relieved of his duties, effective immediately, Patricia interjected, along with several other changes we're implementing in the Boston office. Including Sarah? I asked. She'll be reassigned to a more appropriate position, David confirmed, one better suited to her actual experience level. I took a sip of my coffee, considering their offer. And the building lease? We're prepared to accept a 15% increase, along with a 10-year term, David said, assuming you're interested in returning to Stellar. 20%, I countered, and I want a seat on the regional advisory board. It's time Stellar had more experienced voices in leadership positions. David smiled for the first time. You drive a hard bargain, Ms. Chen, but I'm beginning to understand how you managed to acquire our building right under our noses. He extended his hand again. We have a deal. As we shook hands, I thought about my father and his lessons about property ownership. He would have appreciated the irony. The company that thought they could discard me was now essentially my tenant. One more thing, I added. Tommy, our security guard, he gets a raise. He's the only one who bothered to say goodbye when I left. David laughed. I think we can arrange that. Later that afternoon, I walked back into 100 State Street, this time without a security escort. The lobby was buzzing with whispers and stares as I made my way to the elevator. Tommy gave me a knowing wink as I passed. Welcome back, Ms. Chen, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Or should I say, Director Chen? Just Rachel is fine, Tommy, I replied with a smile. After all, we're both working for the building owner now. As the elevator doors closed, I caught a glimpse of Sarah hurriedly gathering her things from what had briefly been my office. Sometimes, I reflected, the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about proving your worth in ways that can't be ignored. My father had taught me well, always know your true worth, and make sure you own more than you owe. Marcus had thought he was letting go of a replaceable employee. Instead, he'd discovered that sometimes, the quiet ones are the ones you should watch out for. I reached into my bag and pulled out my old building access card, the one I'd never actually returned. Technically, as the building's owner, I hadn't needed it, but it felt right to use it one last time, if only to remind myself how far I'd come. The card reader beeped green, and I smiled. Time to get back to work, this time, on my own terms.